My husband wants to fake a divorce with me, just to marry my best friend. The reason? Her son isn't registered in the school district of the experimental elementary school. Julia is so worried about it that she's made herself sick. Elise. Just think of it as helping Julia. Once Lucas's school admission is settled, we'll get married again, okay? Julia looked alarmed when she heard that and murmured, No, that's not right. Marco scowled and snapped at her. Have you looked in the mirror lately? Do you even see how exhausted you look? Don't interfere, just listen to me. Watching the tender pain on both their faces, I silently tucked away the divorce papers. If that's how it's going to be, then the property division will need to be reconsidered. Chapter 1. Today, Julia officially divorced Eric. To celebrate her rebirth from the ashes, she threw a party and invited lots of friends. That included Marco and me. Marco was her attorney. If it weren't for Marco, her case with Eric wouldn't have been resolved so quickly, and she wouldn't have walked away with such a generous settlement. So, she offered her first glass of wine to Marco. Marco. Thank you. I won't say anything else. I'll just drink to you. But Marco didn't seem pleased. He kept frowning. I'm on medication. I can't drink. I gave him a strange look. I'm the one who organizes the medicine cabinet at home. And every time Marco isn't feeling well, I'm the one who brings him pills. I was sure he hadn't taken anything today, but I couldn't understand why he would lie. Julia froze awkwardly, her hand holding the wine midair. It's okay, then you don't have to drink. I'll drink. Marco's frown deepened. He watched silently as Julia downed the wine in one go, his gaze darkening. Today, Julia was truly happy. It had been nearly half a year of hell since Eric's cheating was exposed. She'd stopped smiling almost completely. But tonight, her face was lit with joy. She flitted among the guests, joking and laughing like a lark. Marco, on the other hand, seemed distracted. Yet his habits remained. He absent-mindedly placed food into my plate. But his eyes, they were always following someone else. Then he put a slice of beef into my bowl. I sighed, feeling strangely drained. I'm allergic to beef, and Marco knows it. He's always been more careful about it than I am. Whenever we eat out, he always warns me not to sneak a bite. But tonight, for the first time, he casually served it to me. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could, he suddenly stood up. I'm going to the restroom. By the time I processed what happened, he was already out of the private room. Where's Julia? I asked a friend next to me. She just left. Probably went to the bathroom. Oh, and where's Marco? I pursed my lips and stood up. Where are you going? Just getting some air. There's a window at the end of the hallway. I really did mean to just get some fresh air. I didn't mean to catch them in the act. But I did. Around the corner, Julia was leaning weakly into Marco's chest. Marco pulled out some pills from his pocket and gently helped Julia take them, even unscrewing a bottle of water to feed her small sips. His face was stern, pretending to be angry. Serves you right. Julia pouted. Why are you like this? You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I was mortified. Marco glared at her. Embarrassed? You're lucky I didn't call you out. Did you forget you have gastritis? Julia giggled. It's nothing. Marco huffed and let go of her. Fine. You're okay. If I try to take care of you again, I'm a damn dog. Julia tugged on his arm, coaxing softly. Okay, I get it. You're just worried about me. Let's go back. Elise might start worrying. Chapter 2. I ran. The moment they stepped out from that corner, I panicked and fled. One of them was my best friend. The other was the person I loved the most. How was I supposed to face them? But maybe I deserved all of this. Julia had been my childhood friend, my closest confidant. We grew up together, over 20 years of friendship. I trusted her more than anyone else in this world. And she trusted me, too. So when she found out that Eric had cheated on her, I was the first person she told. That was a deeply painful time for her. She was obsessed with one question: why did Eric cheat? Why did he betray her? She wasn't thinking about how to move on. She just wanted an answer. I stayed by her side the whole time, drinking with her, clubbing with her, traveling with her. Marco had a big problem with that. He thought I was neglecting him for Julia's sake. I didn't know what else to do but try to please both of them. Eventually, Julia made up her mind. She wanted a divorce. But Eric refused. So she had to go to court. Elise, do you think Margot could represent me? I wanted to support her with everything I had, but I was afraid Margot would say no. And sure enough, when I asked, he frowned. Civil cases aren't really my area of expertise. I can recommend someone more qualified. Plus, I'm really busy. Yes, Margot was busy, but not so busy he couldn't make time if he wanted to. I knew it wasn't about his schedule. He just didn't want to take Julia's case. He thought she was overly dramatic, attention-seeking, and too emotional. You can't yell at her. You can't push her. Clients like that are the worst. But Julia trusted Margot blindly, just like I trust you. Elise, please, help me. I had no choice but to pester Margot. I even used my feminine wiles on him. In the end, he wrapped me in his arms with a sigh of resignation. All right, I'll take the case. It was me. I was the one who pushed Margot to take this case. So when he and Julia grew closer and then crossed the line, he had the nerve to say, "Weren't you the one who made me take her case?" Chapter 3. When I returned to the private room, Julia was sitting in my seat, talking to Margot. He listened quietly while pouring her a glass of water. She took it naturally, as if they had done this many times before. Julia was the first to notice me. Her expression froze for a split second. Then she quickly stood up and grabbed my hand. "Elise, where did you go? I didn't see you." I pulled my hand away. "I just stepped out for some fresh air." Her eyes flickered, clearly hurt, but she forced a smile and pretended everything was fine. "Okay then, you sit, I'll go chat with Xiaobai and the others." As I sat down, Marco lowered his voice, clearly irritated. "What kind of attitude is that again?" I stared at him. "What attitude?" He looked at me as if I were playing dumb, stern, accusing. I found that kind of funny. I actually laughed out loud. Marco was about to say something else. But at that moment, a commotion broke out. Some of our friends were shouting for Julia to drink beer with them. Almost by reflex, Marco began to rise from his seat. I held him down by the arm. "They're my friends. Do me a favor and don't embarrass me." Before he could argue, I beat him to it and walked over to Julia. I stepped in front of her. "She has gastritis. She really can't drink. If you guys want someone to drink with, I'll join you." If I had turned around at that moment, I would have seen Julia's face go pale. But I didn't turn around. I simply smiled and drank with them. No one insisted. Some even said how close Julia and I must be. Later, I drank a lot. Julia wanted to stop me but didn't dare approach. Marco tried to hold my hand, but I pushed him away. In the end, he was the one who carried me into the car. Outside the car, he turned to Julia. "Get in. I'll take you home first." Julia shook her head. "It's fine. I'll get a cab. You should take Elise." But Marco insisted. "It's late. I'd rather not leave you alone." "Don't worry. It's on the way." Suddenly, Julia lowered her voice. "Marco, please, don't do this. I'm begging you. Just go." I had no shame in eavesdropping, then shut my eyes and turned away. In the end, Marco gave in to delicate, fragile Julia. The ride back was quiet. No music, no conversation. That night, Marco didn't sleep. He stayed on the balcony, chain-smoking till morning. And I slept like a baby. Even had a beautiful dream for once. Chapter 4. From the very beginning, Julia's case didn't go smoothly. Just like Marco had predicted, Julia was too emotional. Every time Marco asked her a question, all she gave were feelings, not facts. So I became her interpreter. That made Marco very unhappy. He slammed the table and said, "Get out. I'll talk to her alone." Marco, when angry, scared even me, let alone Julia. She grabbed my hand, not wanting me to leave. But Marco said coldly, "Either you follow my lead, or go hire someone else." Julia had no choice but to let go. That day, they talked in the office for over an hour. When they came out, Julia was unusually radiant. "Marco is amazing," she said. "How so?" "He was gentle." Her words gave me a strange jolt. but I didn't think too much of it. I asked Marco what he did. He said, just because I don't like her personality doesn't mean I can't handle her. She's still emotionally dependent on you, like a kid who never weaned. From now on, I'll contact her directly. That sounded fair. I trusted his judgment. And sure enough, from that day forward, the case made rapid progress. At first, Julia still updated me, but at some point, our communication grew less and less. One day, I called to ask how things were going. She sounded breezy. I'm not sure. I just do whatever Marco tells me. He's handling everything. I laughed, a little helpless. All right, I'll ask him about it tonight. But she quickly said, no need. Marco's right here. I'll let him talk to you. Just like that. Through my best friend's phone. I ended up on a call with my husband. He spoke, but I wasn't really listening. I just kept thinking, they're getting way too comfortable. Marco even joked, what? You don't like me getting along with your bestie? I asked lightly, so, do you still hate Julia? He was busy with his laptop, half distracted. He laughed. She's kind of cute. That was when everything inside me started to tighten. I don't know when the thread finally snapped. Maybe it was that night, around 3 a.m. Marco and I were asleep when his phone suddenly rang. Still drowsy, he answered with a groggy hello. Then, in the next second, he shot upright. Why are you crying? Don't be scared. Just lock the door and call the police. I'm coming right now. His voice was calm, even gentle, but the way he scrambled to throw on clothes, hurried, frantic. Marco had always been composed. I'd never seen him panic before. And yet, even panicked, he was trying to soothe whoever was on the other end. Something about that made me feel deeply uneasy. What happened? I asked. That jerk Eric showed up at Julia's again. Go back to sleep. I'll be right back. Why didn't she call me? The words just blurted out. Marco turned sharply, his eyes like knives. That's what you're worried about, not her safety? Elise, that's heartless. She's your best friend. Yeah, she was my best friend. But when she was scared and desperate, she called my husband. Not me. Marco stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I stood there, frozen. Then, suppressing everything inside me, I decided to follow him. When I arrived at Julia's apartment, the door was open. I could hear her sobbing softly, and Marco's voice, low and soothing. It's okay now. I'm here. He won't dare lay a finger on you. I didn't wait for more. I walked in and saw the two of them embracing. What are you doing? Looking back, maybe I should have been afraid. Afraid to hear too much. Afraid to know what they would say next. Afraid of the truth I wasn't ready to face. Chapter 5. Marco had been very diligent with work lately. He left early every day. By the time I got up, he was already gone. He'd buy breakfast for me and leave it on the table, along with a little note reminding me to eat. I stared at the food on the table for a long time, but in the end, I didn't touch it. Around noon, I got a call from property management. They asked if I'd forgotten to turn off the tap at home. Someone downstairs was complaining about a leak. It sounded ridiculous. That place had been vacant for a long time. Even the main water valve had been shut off. How could there be a leak? I rushed over in a panic. But it was our problem. Water was gushing from the bathroom tap. The floor was already flooded. I hurried to shut it off, then went downstairs to apologize and negotiate compensation with the affected neighbor. With a forced smile, I listened to their scolding and complaints until the matter was finally settled. After they left, my expression went completely cold. Then the property manager asked, "Did you rent the place out? Who's living here now?" Yeah, good question. Who was living here? Julia. Can you believe it? I couldn't either. When I saw the photo of her and her son sitting on the shelf, I actually felt dizzy for a moment. Had I gone blind? I thought I could stay calm, but when I pulled out my phone to make a call, I realized my hands were trembling. How pathetic, my hands were shaking like leaves in the wind. I took a deep breath, desperately trying to suppress the scream rising in my chest, and called Marco. No answer. Then Julia. Still no answer. How was I supposed to think? How else could I think? I didn't hesitate. I stormed straight to Marco's company. Maybe he wasn't there. Maybe he was. And if he was, what the hell would I even say? My thoughts were a mess the entire way, but not once did it cross my mind that I'd find Julia, dressed in office attire, sitting inside Marco's office. She was seated. Marco stood behind her. He was leaning down, one hand on the table, the other on the mouse, completely enveloping her. He was smiling as he said something. Julia looked up at him, her eyes filled with reliance. Bang! I shoved the door open. It slammed against the wall with a loud, echoing crack. Chapter 6. Marco said, I just wanted to help her. She's been out of the workforce for too long, and it's hard for her to find a job. I happen to need an assistant, so I let her try it out. If she's interested, she could consider getting a law degree, whether it's for further studies or a future career. It's a good path. This version of Marco felt so unfamiliar to me. I never knew you were so thoughtful. Marco looked at me, clearly irritated. Don't be sarcastic. There's nothing going on between me and Julia. If we're innocent, we're innocent. I nodded. Got it. But when I stood up to leave, he suddenly grabbed my arm. What do you mean by that? I looked at him, puzzled. Didn't you just say there's nothing to hide? Do whatever you like. When I opened the door, Julia was standing right outside. She looked nervous, her eyes wide like a startled rabbit, trembling with a hint of red. Elise, it's not what you think. Please, let me explain. No need. I said. Marco already explained everything. She looked even more frightened. She shot a glance at Marco, then back at me. What did he say? I gave her a half smile. You don't already know? Then Marco interjected. Don't scare her. There really is nothing between us. Julia let out a silent breath of relief. I knew these two too well. Sometimes I'm grateful for that familiarity. Sometimes I hate it. Oh, by the way, I said to Julia, you left the tap running this morning. Next time, be more careful. You know that apartment was left to me by my parents. Marco doesn't get to decide what happens to it. Please move out in 3 days, okay? Julia's eyes widened in panic, her body swaying like she was about to faint. Marco took a step forward, trying to say something. I shook my head at him. Don't push me to make a scene. Everyone's watching. And I walked away without looking back. Later, I heard that Julia passed out after I left. Marco told me when he came back to pack. I let her stay at the old place because Eric kept harassing her. I was going to talk to you about it, but back then, you were overthinking everything and being paranoid. We just didn't want to make you misunderstand. Then he said, let's take some time apart. I'll stay at the firm for a few days and help Julia out. Marco, I stopped him. Do you have feelings for Julia? He looked at me with a cold expression and scoffed. Elise, don't be ridiculous. He walked out without hesitation. Suddenly, I remembered something Eric once said to Julia. Back then, she was crying and yelling at him. How could you do this to me? You said you'd love me forever. And Eric? His face was indifferent, his voice icy. Everything in life changes. Why shouldn't my feelings for you change too? And the strangest part? He was the one who cheated. He was the one who fell out of love. Yet in the end, he had the audacity to say, I never wanted to divorce you. As if not divorcing her was some kind of charity. Chapter 7. I went to the hospital the next afternoon. Before that, I stopped by Marco's law firm. He wasn't there. One of his colleagues told me, it's lunchtime. He probably went to the hospital. He's been going there like clockwork these past 2 days. The colleague trailed off, looking awkward. He's just kind-hearted, always willing to help. Don't overthink it. I smiled and left. Kind-hearted? Marco? Not really. On the contrary, he's a bit cold. He draws a clear line between his life and others. In his words, lack of empathy is part of my professional ethics, and also a way of respecting both myself and others. All these years, he's never been ambiguous with anyone, never done anything that might cause misunderstanding. If he was being nice to someone, he truly meant it. When I got to the hospital, Marco was gently coaxing Julia to eat. Just a few bites. It's all your favorites. Don't ruin your health. I'll handle it. Don't worry. I'll talk to Elise. Talk to me? Talk about what? I was puzzled. Then Julia grabbed his hand in panic. No. Don't. Please don't tell Elise. This is my problem. It has nothing to do with you or her. I'll handle it. Just stay out of it. Marco frowned. And how exactly do you plan to handle it? Tell me, what's your plan? Julia bit her lip. Looking helpless and fragile, Marco sighed and gently stroked her hair. Don't be afraid. I'm here. I stood at the door, numb, watching it all unfold. A sharp pain shot through my chest. I bit my tongue, pain against pain. So what exactly do you two want to talk to me about? The moment Julia saw me, she flinched away from Marco as if burned. Marco stiffened, pulled back his hand, clearly thrown off. Julia turned toward me with trembling eyes and a forced smile. Elise, you're here. I gave her a cold glance, then turned to Marco. Go ahead. What did you want to talk about? Nothing. Nothing at all. Julia denied instantly, but Marco stepped forward. There's something we wanted to ask. Marco. Shut up. Julia tried to stop him, but he didn't give her the chance. Elise. Let's get a divorce. Elise. Just think of it as helping Julia. Once Lucas's school enrollment is settled, we'll remarry, okay? I never thought I'd hear something so absurd in my life. I genuinely wondered if something was wrong with my ears. What? Julia turned pale and clutched Marco's sleeve, stammering, Please, stop, don't say it. But Marco seemed determined. Elise, let's divorce, just temporarily. Shut up. Marco, Julia shouted. Elise, don't listen to him. He's talking nonsense. Marco lost his temper. He glared at Julia, face darkening. Have you looked in the mirror lately? Do you even see what you look like right now? Don't argue. Just listen to me. Julia burst into tears. Marco reached out, as if to wipe her tears, but stopped himself. His face was full of restrained tenderness. It made me sick. I silently clenched the divorce papers in my hand and shoved them back into my bag. Marco, keep dreaming, and if this is the way it's going to be, then the division of assets will have to be reconsidered. Chapter 8. Marco chased after me out of the hospital. He grabbed my wrist, frustration written all over his face. Elise, let's talk. I let out a cold laugh. Talk about what? Divorce? Wow. Marco, you really are something. Marco rubbed his temples, clearly annoyed. I already told you, it's just a fake divorce. I just want to help Julia. Marco, do you even believe that nonsense yourself? I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, I can't help that. So now he's playing dumb? Fine, I'm in no rush. Or hey, why don't you sue me? Ever represented yourself in court before? Marco frowned deeply and looked at me. Elise, I'm trying to talk to you like an adult. I told you, I never intended to actually divorce you. It's just a temporary solution. I shook my head. Well, I don't agree, and why should I believe you? Marco was about to say more, but his phone rang. I tried to pull my hand away. At first, he was gripping it tightly, but when he saw who was calling, he hesitated and just let me go. I've got something to take care of. We'll talk later. I stared at my wrist for a while, then turned and walked away. Halfway down the hall, I looked back. All I saw was Marco's back as he rushed back into the hospital. Later, Julia said she wanted to talk. I agreed. We met at a book cafe we used to frequent together. Julia looked terrible. Maybe she really was sick. She looked drained. When she saw me, she stood up awkwardly, flustered. Elise, you're here. Please sit. What would you like to drink? I ordered a coffee and sat down. So, go on. What do you want to talk about? Julia bit her lip. Don't listen to Marco's nonsense. He's just worried about Lucas's school stuff. I'll figure it out myself. I won't trouble you and Marco anymore. Smart move. She was finally clever, framing this whole thing as if Marco and I had been on the same page. Helping her as a couple. Nice try. But it's too late. Julia, I said. Do you like Marco? Julia shook her head again and again. No, I didn't. I could never. How could I possibly like him? Then I don't get it. I said. If you don't like him, why were you giving him signals? I didn't, she cried, her voice frantic. Elise, I really didn't. I smiled and shook my head. Julia, we're adults. Everyone has boundaries. If you hadn't given him the signal that you were available, he wouldn't have dared cross the line. Of course, I won't put all the blame on you. If he hadn't crossed it first, maybe you wouldn't have dared to respond. So, what is this? Mutual affection? You're really not going to tell me what happened between you and Marco? Weren't we the kind of best friends who shared everything? Julia's face turned ghostly white. She stared at me with trembling lips. Elise. I swear, I didn't. My expression hardened. My voice went cold. No, Julia. You've always been the romantic type. You like to interpret a man's love through small gestures, putting you first in everything, rushing to your side at the first sign of trouble, remembering your preferences, buying medicine for you instead of asking you to buy it yourself, and insisting that only you can sit in the passenger seat. You know I don't care about that, but you do. So tell me, when you and Marco came to see me, and you were sitting in the passenger seat, what were you thinking? Julia froze. I pointed across the street. I was sitting right over there before you two arrived. It's got a great view. I saw clearly Marco had brought her, gotten out of the car, and wrapped her scarf around her neck before she went in. Julia opened her mouth to speak. I cut her off. You were about to say he was just worried about you, right? Julia, don't you think my husband is a little too worried about you? He really does love you, doesn't he? Julia broke down, covering her face and sobbing uncontrollably. I watched her indifferently. No more sympathy, no more softness. Elise, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I really was wrong. She said. When Eric cheated on me, I started questioning myself. Was it me? Was I the problem? Otherwise, why would he leave me for someone else? Elise, I never meant to hurt you. I never planned to do anything with Marco. It's just, he was so kind to me and I felt happy for the first time. I felt like I deserved to be loved. She said it was vanity. She said she just enjoyed how it felt to be cared for by a man. Unfortunately, that man happened to be my husband. I'm sorry, Elise. I really am. Ever since Marco said he wanted a fake divorce, I realized I was wrong. You can have him back. I'll leave. Please forgive me, okay? I quietly wiped away the tears at the corner of my eyes. It took you this long to realize? So what about all the times he held you late at night to comfort you? Bought you medicine? Fed it to you with his own hands? Let you secretly live in my house? Put you in my company? You didn't think any of that was a problem? No, Elise. I felt good, didn't it? My husband going above and beyond for you, more than he ever did for me, even if it meant humiliating me, addicting, isn't it? Julia sobbed and shook her head. She had no words left, just the shaking. You said you'd give him back? So you already assumed he belonged to you, didn't you? When did he tell you he liked you? Julia's eyes shot open. She stared at me, stunned. She clearly didn't understand how I knew. I leaned back into my chair, exhausted. Julia, I've known you for over 20 years. I've protected you for over 20 years. No one in this world knows you better than I do. That one line shattered her completely. Elise, do you remember the woman Eric cheated on you with? I ran into her a few days ago. She's not with Eric anymore. She's seeing someone new, planning to get married by the end of the year. She looked good, calm, at peace, like she was reborn. She told me she wants to apologize to you. Said she was immature. That she hopes you'll forgive her. She's moving on, and she hopes you will too. I know Julia. And she knows me. She knew what I was trying to say. So she cried harder, begging me to stop. But I'd run out of kindness for her long ago. Can you forgive her, Julia? She tore your marriage apart, destroyed your life, and now she thinks she can just say sorry and walk away? She really thinks she can spit out a mouthful of sugarcane pulp, and you're supposed to pick it up and chew it? She thinks that just because she wants to return it, you have to take it? Julia, how could someone be so cruel? Chapter 9. Julia asked me what I wanted. I smiled faintly. A divorce. Of course, so you two can have the space you need. Her lips trembled. I never thought of it before, and I won't in the future. Elise. I will never be with him. She said it like a vow, solemn, heavy. Is that so? I looked out the window. Well then, congratulations to Marco on all that effort wasted. She said, if you want a divorce, then let's get divorced. Before she left, she asked, Elise, are we still friends? I didn't answer her question. I just said, Julia. This time, the hurt you caused me was far greater than anything Marco did. Julia and I really grew up together. From kindergarten to marriage, we were never apart. Back then, our families lived just one floor apart. Her parents always fought, loud, violent. She was terrified. She'd hide in the hallway, crying, and I would take her hand and bring her home. We'd eat together, play together, do homework together, sleep side by side. From kindergarten, all the way through high school. At most, the distance between us was just a few classrooms apart. Later, we fought hard to get into the same university. In the same city, my mom used to laugh and say, you two might as well marry in the same neighborhood. And Julia would nod. I can't live without Elise. How funny, to be betrayed this deeply by the person I trusted most. I guess I deserved it. Marco came home around sunset. He said, Elise, let's just think of it as helping Julia. She's your best friend. You wouldn't want to see her suffer, right? He said, it's just a fake divorce. Once it's over, we'll remarry. If you're worried, I'll transfer all the assets to your name. I looked at the man in front of me, at this man who'd been blinded by his so-called love, at this man still clinging to self-deception. Fine, let's get divorced. The process was smooth and fast. Marco had already prepared the divorce agreement. He gave me the house, the car, and all our joint savings. The day we got the divorce certificate, I asked Marco to move out of the house. He paused, stunned. What do you mean? The house is mine. We're divorced. Isn't it normal for you to move out? But it was supposed to be a fake divorce. Says who? Elise. What are you talking about? I gave him a cold, mocking smile. Marco, I never intended to fake anything. Marco was sharp. He figured it out instantly. You used me? Used you? I wouldn't say that. Didn't you get what you wanted? Isn't this just a little compensation for your efforts? Marco stared at me for a long time. Finally, he said, you didn't have to do this. There was nothing between Julia and me. There never will be. I genuinely just wanted to help her. There's no future between us. That has nothing to do with me. Elise, what do you want from me? Looking at Marco's expression, disbelief, maybe even thinking I was being unreasonable, I felt nothing but cold sadness. Marco, do you really not know me at all? You honestly thought I could ignore everything between you and Julia? That I could just swallow it all? Well, I couldn't. But what was I supposed to do? I can't kill you, can I? So just stay the hell away from me. Don't disgust me any further. My words were harsh. Marco's face darkened. Elise, stop being dramatic. I laughed coldly, meeting his eyes. His face turned uglier by the second. Fine, just don't regret it. Chapter 10. Marco moved out, taking only a single suitcase. I asked him what he planned to do with the rest of his things. Throw them away, he said. He was sulking, still thought I was just bluffing. I chuckled and nodded. All right, got it. The next day, I cleared out all of Marco's personal items. As for his work-related stuff, I hired a courier to deliver it to his firm. As soon as it arrived, Marco called me, his tone accusatory, almost like I'd committed a crime. Elise, what the hell are you trying to do? What I'm trying to do? He really had the nerve to ask that? Marco, can you stop lying to yourself? I hung up the phone and blocked him on everything, calls, texts, all social media. From that day on, I cut off all contact with Marco. A while later, Julia messaged me, Elise, I've resigned. I won't disturb you again. A couple days after that, she sent another. I gave Eric custody of Lucas. He'll handle Lucas's schooling. I was too stubborn before. Didn't want to be tied to him again. But Lucas is his son, he should take responsibility. Elise. I'm sorry. I read the messages several times, then deleted them. I didn't reply. Not everything in this world can be forgiven with a smile, and I'll let bygones be bygones. Whatever happened between Marco and Julia after that? I didn't know, and I didn't care enough to ask. But after Julia messaged me that Lucas's school issue had been resolved, Marco got himself drunk out of his mind. One of his friends called me sis-in-law. Marco's totally wasted. Could you come pick him up? We're divorced. I replied. I thought that was clear enough. But Marco still showed up at my door. He reeked of alcohol, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He wasn't drunk at all. Why are you here? I asked. Marco gave me a smile. Elise. Lucas's school thing is taken care of. Let's go get remarried tomorrow. I stared at him for a few seconds. Marco, are you joking? His lips pressed into a hard line. We agreed. It was just a fake divorce. His tone was so serious, so righteous, just like the first time he said it. I felt like laughing. Marco, don't pretend you didn't see what was happening. What's the point of lying to yourself at this point? I tried to close the door, but he blocked it with his arm. Elise, let's talk. Talk? The time for real conversation between us had passed long ago. Now, no matter what we said, it was too late. But since he insisted, fine, let's talk. I just hoped this farce would finally end. Only I didn't know where to begin. It was Marco who finally spoke first. We only got divorced to help Julia. Now that Lucas's school issue is resolved, let's get remarried. Okay? That was Marco's opening line, and it couldn't have been worse. That was the last thing I wanted to hear. If that's how you're going to start this conversation, then there's really no point in continuing. I stood up, ready to show him out. He yanked me back. His voice was low, almost growling. What the hell do you want from me? Is it about Julia? Fine, I'll never talk to her again. I told you, this was the last time I helped her. What more do you want? That question hit me like a hammer. What do I want? Was it ever about what I wanted? Did anyone ever give me a choice? Right then, the emotions I'd been holding in for months finally exploded. I had been holding myself together for the sake of my dignity, but what Marco and Julia did to me, it wasn't just betrayal. It was the collapse of trust. When they played me for a fool, flirting behind my back, right under my nose. When they pushed me to my limit, yet still expected me to tolerate it. I started asking myself, what did I do to make them think I was this stupid? This easy to walk all over? Was it when I opened my heart to them? Trusted them? Were they secretly laughing at me this whole time? Mocking me for being blind, dumb, and pathetic? Marco, fine, cheat on me, fall for someone else, whatever. But why did it have to be Julia? You knew, she was my best friend, and you still chose her. You make me sick. You say there's no future between you and Julia? You mean she said no, right? You confessed to her, didn't you? And she turned you down, didn't she? Julia is trash, but you? You're worse than she is. To you, I was just settling. But why the hell should I settle for you? You think after all the shit you've done, I'm still supposed to accept you back? You said Eric was trash. But tell me, how are you any different from him? I've already done you a favor. Why do you keep coming back just to disgust me? And even now, you can't admit you were wrong. You blame me. You say I'm overthinking. I'm bitter. I'm narrow-minded. I'm selfish, right? Marco, you are absolutely repulsive. My sudden explosion left Marco frozen in place. He finally said, I never blamed you. I never wanted to hurt you. Elise, I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. I collapsed onto the sofa, tears streaming down without restraint. You didn't want to hurt me? You fell in love with someone else and kept it from me, then acted like you were sacrificing your feelings for the sake of our marriage. But deep down, you were bitter. So when you flirted with Julia, was it revenge? Because I had you, and she didn't? What did I lose? Just my dignity. What did you two lose? Love. But guess what? You're not as important as you think, and I'm not as pathetic as you assume. Marco looked like he'd been crushed. His body slumped, hands gripping the table. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We weren't supposed to end up this way. But what were we supposed to be? Back when you proposed, you said you'd love me forever. When we got married, you said you'd protect me for life. Even during a fight, when I once mentioned divorce, you shook your head and said no. You said we'd be buried together, till death. But then you strayed. You forgot every promise. And yet, you still wanted me to wait for you where you left me. Why? Chapter 11. Marco left. His steps were unsteady. His back slumped in defeat. He never showed up again. There was no after between him and Julia, either. The last message Julia ever sent me came just recently. She said she'd gone back to her hometown. Said she didn't want to stay in this city anymore. Elise, I never meant to hurt you. But I did. I lost my mind. I acted recklessly. I deserve the ending I got. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just hope you won't be sad for the rest of your life. Side story, Marco. The way I met Elise was almost cinematic. I was still an intern, out on a site visit with a colleague. The building was old, no elevator, no intercom. Even the stairwell light was broken. After we wrapped up, I stepped out first to grab a smoke. Just as I was reaching the ground floor, the iron door creaked open, and a petite girl walked in. The moment she saw me, she froze. She didn't move forward, didn't retreat, just stood there, stiff as a board. In the dim light, I could sense how tense she was, like she might either faint or run at any second. I should have stepped aside, reassured her I wasn't dangerous. But the atmosphere was so strange, so heavy, I lost the ability to react. I don't know how long we stood like that. Then my colleague's voice echoed down the stairs. Why are you just standing there? Weren't you going out for a smoke? I finally exhaled. I think I scared some poor girl. I muttered helplessly. At the time, I just thought, this girl is really timid. I'd never met someone so easily frightened. Later, when I found out she was from the same school as me, I spoke to her in whispers, afraid I'd scare her again. But as we got closer, I realized, this girl may have been small, but she was fierce. She had a best friend, Julia. I never liked Julia much. She couldn't handle anything, always hiding behind Elise. One time, Julia was being harassed. She cried her eyes out. And Elise? She swung her backpack and beat the guy. She wasn't strong, never fought before. If it hadn't been near the dorms, if there hadn't been a guard, she might have gotten hurt. We were already together then. I was furious. As I cleaned her wounds, I asked, weren't you scared? She grinned like an idiot. Of course I was, but I told Julia to get the security guard. I had a plan. That was Elise. Fiercely independent. Never needed help. I asked her why. She said, I got used to it. Later, I'd think about that a lot. Maybe I felt useless around Elise. Maybe that's why, when Julia started relying on me completely, I got addicted to the feeling. Julia was nothing like Elise. She was delicate, like a drifting leaf. No opinions, easily swayed. She wouldn't even ask why, just stared at you with those trusting eyes. So when did things change between us? Maybe it was that time she said someone was following her. She said she was terrified. I didn't hesitate. I ran over right away. The moment she saw me, she threw herself into my arms, wrapped around my waist. Shaking like a leaf, she cried into my shirt. It was like she wanted to melt into me. I softened. I was going to push her away, but instead, I held her. After that, it all spiraled out of control. I paid more and more attention to her, cared more, worried more. And then, one day, I realized I had feelings for her. It was a partner at the firm who woke me up. That was impulsive. Such a small case shouldn't need your attention. If you're not in the right state of mind, hand it off. Don't let your emotions interfere. After he left, I smoked an entire pack of cigarettes. Then Julia called. I made fish. Want to come over? At that moment, my heart melted. I even smiled when I said, sure. That was when I realized it. I had fallen for Julia. I was in love with my wife's best friend, and I could feel it. Julia had feelings for me too, but neither of us said it aloud. We both pretended nothing had crossed the line, pretended everything we did was just what friends would do. We even deliberately ignored Elise's presence. Elise once said, "When you were flirting with Julia, you were doing it to get back at me." I denied it flatly, but deep down, I knew she was right. I didn't want to hurt Elise. I just didn't love her anymore. I fell for someone else, but I didn't want it to lead anywhere. I gave up my own feelings to stay and live that mundane domestic life with Elise. In my mind, I had wronged myself. I had wronged Julia, but Elise? I didn't think I owed her anything. That was how messed up I was, drunk on self-righteousness, blind to reality. Still, there were moments, vague but piercing, when guilt for Elise would sneak in. The first time I truly panicked was when Elise caught Julia and me hugging. She asked us, "What are you doing?" We both froze. The shame, the awkwardness, we were exposed. And in my embarrassment, I got angry. I accused her of having a dirty mind. But really, I was just trying to cover up how disgusting I'd been. That was the first time I considered ending things with Julia. One night, after drinking, I called her. I said, "Julia, you know I like you, right? Not just like. I want to be with you, but I can't betray Elise. Tell me, Julia, what should I do?" Julia went silent for a long time. In the end, she said to me, "Don't hurt Elise. We promised each other, once the case ended, we'd cut all contact." So we treated that period like one last celebration, a final, reckless burst of emotion, and it showed. So many slip-ups, so many signs, but I didn't care anymore. All I could think about was how painful the rest of my life would be, having lost the woman I loved. The woman I loved? Heh, love? It came fast and left just as fast. So what was it, really? Nothing more than hormones messing with me. When I realized Elise actually wanted a divorce, it felt like I fell straight out of the clouds. I lied to myself, told myself she was just angry, that once I finished things with Julia, she'd come back. I went to see Julia. Her gaze was complicated. She said, "You shouldn't have come." Her eyes had changed. Now, they were calm, clear. How strange. Just a few days ago, we were wrapped in this desperate, chaotic love. But Elise's decision, so sharp, so final, was like a gong strike that snapped us awake. Julia asked, "What if we got married? For real this time? You're already divorced from Elise. We could be together forever. You said you loved me, didn't you?" Her words made me stumble backward. That's not what we agreed to. Because it wasn't. Not even in my most confused, irrational moments. Not once did I ever plan to actually divorce Elise. Julia smiled. She looked at me, shook her head, and said, "You don't deserve to be Elise's husband, and I don't deserve to be her friend." Julia was just chasing a sense of validation in me. And me? I was chasing that same thing. The thrill of being needed. The rush of a forbidden world. Eric once said, "Everything in this world changes. Why can't my feelings change too? Why can't I fall out of love?" I called him a scumbag. But in the end, I became the very person I despised.